Well, hello, everybody. It's LeeAnne Hayden here. Welcome to The Beautiful Bag. This week's guest, Michelle Valentino. Oh my gosh, does this woman have a story to tell? We met each other on Instagram just a couple of weeks ago, not even too long ago. And we've just connected, which is one reason why I love social media. We connected and I loved her story. So I wanted her to get on here and share it with you. So, Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this and for having me. I am super excited about this.
I love it. And you know what? You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And your story is you're pretty amazing. I mean, and you're a new ostomy. You're
I
new in the
am.
ostomy
I'm a
world.
newbie. I
You're
am
a
a newbie
newbie.
estimate. Yeah.
You are. So I
But I'm a
love it.
lifer. I'm a lifer. I'm here for life. So
Yep. That happens, right? I've interviewed people with temporaries and people with lifers. And I think that I love that you're a newbie because you're going to end up having a different thought process. Like you're in a different stage than somebody who's had it for 5 years or 20 years or whatever it is. So yeah, let's get into it. I mean, this all started for you back when you were 16, right?
even
Younger,
younger
12.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually talking to my mom about it the other day and I said, do you remember when it all started? And she said about 11, 12 years old is when things got really bad. But as a kid, I was always the nauseous, always threw up. I was always constipated. I always had bowel issues. And we never had any Crohn's or colitis or anything in the family. My grandmother had colon cancer and she actually had an ostomy as well. But it never crossed our mind, that it could be something more serious. So then, I'm about 12 years old, right about the time when girls tend to get their period. I started bleeding through my rectum and just kept bleeding and getting cramps. And I was too embarrassed to say anything. I came from a household where we didn't really talk about, those issues. We didn't talk about periods. We never had like the talk. So I was kind of to myself and I'd go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay, this is not normal, but I'm too embarrassed to say anything. So it just went on for a couple of months until I almost bled to death. And I had lost more than half the blood in my body. I think my hematocrit was down to either 14 or 18.
Oh my goodness. I mean,
Yeah.
that's traumatic. But you speak volumes right there, right? You were too afraid or
Mhm.
embarrassed. You were too embarrassed to say anything. And I think that that's something that we really need to push hard on. That we need to tell if something's wrong, something's wrong. I mean,
Mhm.
bleeding out of your rectum is not normal. But again,
Right.
how were you to know? But you knew something just wasn't right, right? So where can we
Right.
create the space for people to be able to have that kind of conversation?
Right. And I think that people experience some sort of like shock and they know something's not right, but they don't want to say anything because that makes it real,
Right.
And I think that and it can cross over to so many different facets.
Right. No, it's so true. It's so true. So now, it's not right. You've lost half your blood. I mean, so now your parents have to know. I mean, they need to know something's going on with you. So what happened?
Yeah, so I ended up passing out. It was around Christmas time, and that's always a time that is sensitive for me. That's when I tend to flare. It's seasonal, so a lot of times it was near Christmas that I'd have my flare up, and it was near Christmas, and I had gotten out of the shower and I just collapsed. My parents came upstairs and they took me right to the emergency room. I don't really remember um, specific details about it, but I remember going to the emergency and they did all sorts of tests. And right away, they said that I had ulcerative colitis. And then they explained a little bit about what it was, how I had to have a GI doctor, and how I was severely inflamed. So they treated me with prednisone. And so began my 14, 15-year struggle with prednisone, up and down, up and down. So, yeah, it was tough being a teenager and having to go through that. But we all have our crosses to bear, and I try not to pity myself too much.
Yeah,
No.
well, I think that's why you've come out of the gate with this so successfully. So now you've had 15 years of, the ups and downs. You have Crohn's, you have ulcerative colitis. Um, you're trying to be a teenager. How was life like for those 15 years?
When I look back, there's nothing that I truly feel that I missed out on. When I look back, I was actually going through pictures, photo albums the other day, and I look so different in every single picture. In one picture, I have the huge, the moon face from the prednisone. And then in another picture, I'm super skinny. And then in another picture, I've got the moon face again and just the dark circles under my eyes, and it just looks unhealthy. But I had a lot of fun. I still went out. I partied in high school. I played soccer. I played lacrosse. I was active. And then I'd have a nasty flare up and I'd end up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. But as I was going through the photos, I saw how all my friends would come to the hospital and sit with me. And so the clowns were there. I was there for Christmas a couple of years. So it was just part of my life, and when someone tells a story, it sounds sad, but I don't have regrets looking back and say, oh my God, my life was so difficult. It's just all I ever knew, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you didn't know that life could be any different.
No.
So now, you get married, children, all the things. And so what happened 6 months ago?
Okay. So leading up to that, I always had to be super, super comfortable with my body because of my Crohn's. I had severe gas. I had all these bathroom issues. My life revolved around a toilet. I could not go anywhere where there wasn't a toilet close by. I could not go anywhere where I didn't feel safe. So a lot of times, any guy that I dated, I had to be super comfortable with, and I had to let it out the first time I was near him. So they would be like, okay, am I going to be disgusted, or is this something I'm willing to deal with? So I lost a few guys, but they were probably better off,
Yeah. They were worth the loss.
Exactly.
It really wasn't a loss.
No, it wasn't a loss. But then there's the ones who didn't mind, who didn't care and who I felt comfortable around. And that was important. And then I remember wanting kids, and I was scared to death because I had been told so many times, oh, you've been on chemotherapy for years. They used a form of chemotherapy to treat the Crohn's because mine was so severe that they could not get it into remission even with the prednisone. So they tried all these other medical therapies, and they had put me on this thing called 6MP. So when I went to, I'm sure many Crohn's listeners are familiar with it, but when I had gone to the gynecologist and my OB, and she said, no, I won't treat you if you want to have kids and you're on this medicine. She goes, that's a category D medicine and you can't have kids. You're going to risk the kid's life and your life. And she refused to be my OB. So I had to find a new OB. And that's kind of my personality, is if I don't hear what I like, I just go to the next person and to the next person until I hear what I want.
I can relate.
Oh yeah.
I can totally relate.
Yeah. And so finally I found an OB that said, okay, we'll monitor you closely. And, I did have 2 miscarriages, but then finally was blessed with a healthy baby boy. Pregnancy was awful, but it's very rare that I find someone who says the pregnancy was unbelievable. But and then I was blessed with a daughter, and then we stopped. Then things took a turn for the worse. My Crohn's just got out of control. So fistula started forming. I don't know if you're familiar with a fistula, but it's basically abscesses that develop in like your rectum or colon. And this happened to be a vaginal fistula. So it actually developed a tunnel where the abscess would drain out of. So
okay,
they had to put in a ceton band, it's called, and I'd have several surgeries. And I would actually go I'm a teacher, so I'd go during my lunch breaks and get the abscesses drained during my 40-minute lunch.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But, and so people are like, you did what on your lunch break? But, so then we got to the point where daily, and I'll get into that a little more, but daily life just became too much. And I was so overburdened with how much I was doing just to try to live a normal life, right, that my doctors are like, okay, you have no choice anymore. It's life or death now. I mean, your intestines are so paper thin. Your walls are going to perforate and rupture. We can't stretch them anymore because they were so closed. So in November, they said, you don't have a choice. It's time for surgery. So I had to get prepared for that. And
then COVID happens.
And then COVID happened. My surgery is scheduled for February 20th. And then I got a call. I was all ready to go. Got a call that morning at 4:30 that my surgery at 6 was canceled. So I know.
Especially after you've done that prep.
I know. The prep.
Come on.
My God.
The prep.
33 years of that prep. I had done it 33 times. Yeah. It's the worst. I can't even look at it. Yeah. So then they rescheduled it. And it was for June 3rd. And then when they had called me the day before, they had the wrong surgery planned. They had an ileostomy rather than a colostomy. And so I freaked out and went and had another colonoscopy, a scan, and then they determined colostomy rather than ileostomy. So then it was for June 10th. And June 10th, I went in and had the surgery. My husband dropped me off at the door. You couldn't have anybody there with you because it was the height of COVID here in Rochester. So he dropped me off. I wrote my will. I thought I was for sure going to die. And I said goodbye to him, goodbye to the kids, and went in. And it was scary. It was super scary.
I know.
It is going into those major surgeries.
Yeah. I mean, and how long were you under? When I did mine, when they were trying to get the tumor out of me, I was under for 9 hours, never mind the prep time and the after time. I was actually under anesthesia for 9 hours.
I think they said 8.5 hours for me.
Yeah.
I think that you had the same procedure as me called the Barbie butt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Same thing. Sewed up butt, no butt, sewed up butt, but you still got a butt. But see, I think you still got a butt, and you can have a good butt. I'm just telling you, you can still have a good butt.
I definitely have a butt.
Yeah. You keep your butt. It's just there's like way inside that's just sewed up a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, you can't tell at all.
You can't tell at all.
I've tried looking. Yeah.
No, can't tell. No difference. All right. So it's June. You've lived in this now for what, 7 months, 8 months, 7 months? How has life been for you?
So at first, that dark cloud that you talk about, LeeAnne, that cloud that it hit hard in the beginning because I was so alone and smelled so bad. And I was disgusted with the smell. I could not believe that I could go on the rest of my life smelling this bad. And I don't know why it smelled so bad. I mean, it was like an abnormally.
Is the anesthesia and the medication.
Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is.
Horrific.
Yeah. In the beginning, like the first week or two, it's horrible. It's horrible. But all that is your body's just removing all the drugs, all the anesthesia, everything that it's been through is just coming through your body. And yeah, it's bad, but people need to know that's not how it is forever.
No. And they need to know that. And they need to know. So I want to get to the positive part, but I also want to
we got to be real, right?
Validate people's feelings. Is that it does suck the first couple of days, but that's it, really. I mean, you like anything in life, like having kids, like anything that you don't know, it's so much scarier to anticipate what it would be like when you don't know. I was that person that said I would rather die than live in a bag. That was me 5 years ago. When I went and got sized for the bag and I touched a real stoma, I said, I'd rather be dead. So those people that are so vain and say that, I can relate to them because I was like, no way, I don't want this for my life. This is disgusting. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way, and it's not that way. And I'm so like, it almost makes me tear up when I think about how many people out there would rather die than actually live in a bag.
And that's been the driving force of me being so loud personally on social media and so loud with creating this podcast. We had this conversation the other day, people people would rather die because they don't understand and they don't know. I mean, like me, I was I did fitness shows. I was in a bikini all the time. I mean, I might've been in my early 40s, but I was in a bikini all the time. And I was super vain, and that whole thought process of this isn't going to happen to me. And you could still feel sexy and beautiful after. Like, because guess what? The sexy, beautiful is a mental thing. It's not the physical thing. It's a mental thing. Big time.
Absolutely.
Big time. So
absolutely. And it takes a while to get there, a little while.
Yeah.
But it's attainable and you just got to get over it.
You do. And I think too, is you need to surround yourself with people, right? You got to find the community, and it's hard. We talked about this too. Where's the community? Where do you go to find people that are like you? You found me on Instagram.
Instagram.
Seriously.
And let me tell you, it took some soul searching, because there aren't people that are here walking around in Rochester that I know that have a bag. And how would you know? I mean, you're not going to post it out there, right? At least people around here aren't. There was nobody in the doctor's office the nurses weren't even trained on how to change the bag.
Yeah, you said that. So now talk about that. Talk about that.
Okay. So it's COVID. The nurses are probably not, and I love my hospital. I love my surgeon. I had the world's greatest surgeon. I love her to death. And she actually is so excited about this podcast and wants to be on it someday.
Love it.
She's fantastic. And trust me, I've interviewed every single one I think out there. Because for years I was supposed to have this. So I talked to somebody at the Mayo Clinic. I talked to people in Cleveland Clinic. I think rectal surgeon in Rochester, because it was something that I knew was coming. But when it came time to it, there was nobody that I could actually say, help me, how do I do this? It was really figuring it out on your own. And I don't want other people to feel that way. I want to be there and help the people, locally, or even on a face, on a chat, on a Zoom or something, to be able to help others, because I wish I had a little bit more of that.
Yeah. So in what way? What if you had someone, what were the lessons that you would have liked to have had somebody talk to you about, or teach you, or help you with in the beginning?
Well, I was fortunate enough to have my cousin drive up from New Jersey, and she took care of ostomy patients. She's a nurse. So she was able to help me with the catheter in the beginning, because I couldn't urinate on my own. And I had to carry her on the catheter for a couple of weeks because all of the muscles were cut. But just changing the bag and then having the constant accidents, was a total, it was like 2 steps forward and then 100 steps back.
So tell us a story about that. Like, why don't you tell us a story of one of those accidents? Like, what happened and how did you overcome it? How'd you overcome it?
In 7 months, I have like 5 or 6 crazy stories, but one of them that really hit home was my daughter's 13th birthday, and it was October 25th, and she had 5 of her closest girlfriends, and I took them out to eat. So they were in the minivan, and we're driving to a restaurant locally, and all of a sudden I felt really warm around my waist area. And I had my Lululemon pants on, and I had my stealth belt on, and I felt good. And then all of a sudden, the girls in the back said, "Oh, what is that smell? What is that smell? It smells like there's like dog poop." And then I heard all of them saying, "Oh my God, open a window." And I just was mortified, because I knew that smell was me. And I could feel the warmth of the stool just going everywhere. And I dropped the girls off at the restaurant. I couldn't believe what was happening, but I got out of the car, and then my daughter came behind the car to see if I was okay. And I was just bawling. And please just go in the restaurant with the girls. I have to go home and fix something. I'll be back. And she's like, "Are you sure you're okay?" And I said, "Yes, please just go." So she went inside. I came home crying, and it takes a lot to break me down, but I was pretty embarrassed, a bunch of teenage girls in the car, and I'm, their soccer coach, and I'm a teacher here, I teach middle school, and it's just, it was just humiliating for me. But I came home and my husband was excellent. He said, okay, listen, I'll clean up the car, you shower, but I think it's important that you go back,
Mhm.
because this is a make it or break it moment. Like if you let us take you over, then it's just that's how it's gonna be, but you're stronger than that. So I cleaned myself up, I put on a new bag. Um, Mentally, I kind of calmed down a little bit. He cleaned up the car and I aired it out and went back and enjoyed a beautiful dinner. I was able to celebrate, we got cake and we laughed, and it was just getting back on the horse after you fall off.
Right. And those things are going to happen. I mean, we need people to understand them. Those things will happen. But I think
Yeah.
that within the lessons of that, because I've had my own stories, right? You learn how to overcome them, and then you learn why it happens, right? So, you irrigate. And if anybody doesn't know what irrigation is, it legitimately is like giving yourself an enema through your stoma, and emptying your colon, right? And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden now it's empty, and then you can feel a little freer.
Hmm.
However, within that, sometimes water does get stuck in your colon and it can come out, at a specific time. So, it's those things. It's like, okay, when do I irrigate? Do I irrigate? What's best for me? I used to irrigate. I stopped irrigating. Um,
Hmm.
what foods are triggering me in a different
Hmm.
way, right? So again, it's a learning lesson that we all have to go through. But again, you're still alive to go through those
Hmm.
moments.
Yeah.
So they're important. I've had those stories I told you. But so now you've done it, you've overcome it. Um, Aside from having those accidents, how has life been? How has the stomach pain been? How has the bleeding been? How has the not having to have drugs been? Like, how
Oh
is
man, it's a newfound freedom. I have 5 hours more to myself a day than I did prior to the surgery. It had gotten to take over my life so much that, I mean, this is going to gross people out. So if people don't like to be grossed out, they might want to tune out for a second.
well, we're talking about ostomies.
Yeah, that's true.
We talk poop.
We know our audience, right? I mean, I had bowel obstructions
Mhm.
all the way through my intestines and rectum. I explained them to people like sausage links.
Mhm.
If you picture like a link of sausage and it comes together really, really tight. And I had that all the way through my rectum and anus and colon. So I would have to go and like stick my finger up my rear end in the middle, like during a teaching break. I'd go to the bathroom just to relieve a little air because air
Wow.
couldn't get through there. So and then I was dilating every day for about an hour and a half in the morning, and then having accidents all the time anyway. So it had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, it can't get much worse. So it's got to only get better. And I have this newfound freedom. I have more time. My mother-in-law tears up every single time she sees me. She goes, I can't believe how healthy you look. You look so healthy. You're glowing. You look like you have energy. Like I was exhausted
Mhm.
every day. And I have energy. I feel great. I don't have cramping or pain or bleeding. I mean, life's not perfect, but I mean, it's way better than it was for many years.
Right. So there it is, right? It's way better than it
Hmm.
was. You've had accidents, you've overcome them. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing your husband said, like this is a make it or break it moment. So when
Hmm.
you're gonna have those moments, and I'm talking to
Hmm.
the audience with this, like where you're gonna have those moments. If there is gonna be a make or break it moment, and you need to stand back up. Like you have to stand back up and go and
Hmm.
face it. And then you grow from there. And then life can get even better from there.
Hmm.
It only gets better from there. So you had a better life, no more
Yeah.
pain. Um, you're home, you're teaching at home, right? Because you haven't
Yeah, I'm
gone back to
teaching remote
classroom.
this year. Right,
Yeah.
right. Just because of COVID though. But yeah, I mean, I coach soccer, and I coach middle schoolers and I teach middle schoolers.
Mhm.
And that's an important age because I like to teach the girls about body image um, and how not to be obsessed with your bodies, but to love them and to take care of them no matter what they look like.
Right.
Right. a huge message to give to our young girls at that impressionable age.
It really is. And that middle school is the time. It's the
Yeah.
time, gosh, forever ago, but it's definitely the time. It's definitely the time where they are impressionable, and you're going to have a great message to give to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and opening that space that you didn't have when you were younger, the embarrassment of something going on, and you didn't know where to go because you were too embarrassed to even talk about it. You're going to allow them, because you came from that. You'll allow them to have that moment to say, hey, you've been through this. What do I do?
Yeah. I had a student a couple years ago. I was teaching in the high school for a couple of years, and she couldn't believe that I was on the same medicine that she was. We were both on Remicade injections at the time. And we started talking, and she said, you wouldn't understand. I have to go to the hospital every couple of weeks. I have something called Crohn's disease. And I said, oh, honey, I do understand. I do too. And she goes, no way. So we became so close, and she would come to me and she's like, I don't feel good. I'm like, honey, I have crackers for you right here, And so I love being able to help people and to be able to be relatable. And when so many kids feel like they're the only ones in the world that have this and that are going through this, which is so common for teenagers to feel that way.
Oh yeah. And it's even common for us to feel that way. We all get into those modes and into those moments.
You know what's so funny? It's like, you look at us, like I'm looking at you. I mean, totally healthy, right? Perfectly healthy. You haven't gone through anything, LeeAnne.
Yeah, nobody would know.
No.
No, nobody
Unless
would
you
know.
show them your bag, they wouldn't know. Yeah.
Nope. And that's again why the statistic, and I think I say this on every show, is it's 1 in 1,000 people in the United States are in a bag. 1 in 1,000 in the US are in a bag. I mean, that's a lot of people, and you just don't know it. So just think of that, and I love what you said. I mean, you're healthier, you're happier, you're better, your life is better,
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And that's why I love the name of your podcast, The Beautiful Bag. I love it.
I woke up, I was thinking about, it's funny because I was thinking about when I was naming it, I'm like, oh, what am I naming it? What am I naming it? And I prayed and I thought and whatever, and I just couldn't come with it. I woke up one morning and it went, The Beautiful Bag. Like it came to me first thing in the morning when I woke up. I go, that is it. And that's period. That's it. That's what it is. So thank you for that. All right. So if you want to leave the audience with, a couple of things, what would you want to tell them? What would you want to say to them?
Oh my God, I have so many things to say. I would say that if you are on the edge and you're nervous, that's okay. I understand. And there is a community of people that are out there that want to help, and about life is so precious, and we don't all we're not all privileged with the opportunity to make that choice. And it sounds like you're making a choice that's going to be difficult, but you have the gift of life, and you can live your life exactly how you want to, and with a newfound purpose too. You have this new appreciation for everything. Stay positive and surround yourself, like you always say, surround yourself with like-minded people and positive people. Don't surround yourself with negative. There is a lot of them out there. I mean, I had to get off of so many Facebook groups because it was just taking me downwards. It was bringing me back to that dark cloud. So I would definitely say Instagram has been helpful, and this podcast was a great outlet.
Good. Well, I am so glad that you were here. I'm so glad that you shared your story with us.
Thank you.
Gosh, I adore you. I feel like I've known you for years, and it's funny, we even met a week ago.
I know. I feel the same way.
Maybe 2 if we're lucky.
No, I think we're going to do big things.
I agree with you, babe.
I'm going to be by your side.
You got it. Absolutely. And I yours. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here with us this week. Join us next week for another guest and another story. But if you want to, follow Michelle, you want to go find her on Instagram, how could they find you if you wanted somebody to reach out to you?
I believe I am not great with social media, but I'm trying to get better. It's Michelle U9. So that's my Instagram. But for Facebook, it's Michelle Valentino.
Okay.
I'm trying to start, some ostomy groups, but I, I need a little push. So
We'll
but
work
yeah,
on that. We'll work on that.
Okay, good.
We'll get that
Reach out.
community going. Don't you worry about it. It's a positive community. It'll be a positive community too, with real stories, but a positive community. I can't even talk right now. So, all right, awesome. Well, guys, if you want to chat with Michelle, if you have questions, if she can help you with anything, you reach out. Like she said, you can find her on Facebook or you can find her on Instagram. Michelle, thank you again so much.
Thank you, LeeAnne.
Mwah.